our fight is against real and not imaginary hardships, or to use the language of the state prosecutor, so-called hardships. Basically, my lord, we fight against two features which are the hallmarks of African life in South Africa and which are entrenched by legislation which we seek to have repealed. These features are poverty and lack of human dignity. And we do not need communists or so-called agitators to teach us about these things.
As far as Yasser Arafat is concerned, I explained to Mr. Sidney that we identify with the PLO because just like ourselves, they are fighting for the right of self-determination.
Our people demand democracy. Our country, which continues to bleed and suffer pain, needs democracy. It cries out for the situation where the law will decree that freedom to speak or freedom constitutes the very essence of legality and the very thing that makes for the legitimacy of the constitutional order. It thirsts for the situation where those who are entitled by law to carry arms as the forces of national security and law and order will not turn their weapons against the citizens simply because the citizens are set that equality, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are fundamental human rights which are not only inalienable but must, if necessary, be defended with the weapons of war.
One of the problems we are facing in the world today are people who do not look at problems objectively, but from the point of view of their own interests. That makes things difficult because once a person is not objective, it is extremely difficult to reach an agreement. One of the best examples of this is to think that because Arafat is conducting a struggle against the state of Israel, that we must therefore condemn him. We can't do that. It is just not possible for any organization or individual of integrity to do anything of the sort.
I don't also want to leave the impression, if I might just intervene with one point, I don't want to leave the impression that this is only going to be a Jewish blank issue. There are a great many Cuban Americans in this country who will be just as offended by some of the comments you've made about Fidel Castro in Cuba.
No, Mr. Coppell, I don't agree with you. I am saying that it would be a grave mistake for us to consider our attitude towards Yasser Arafat on the basis of the interests of the Jewish community. We sympathize with the struggles of the Jewish people and their persecution right down the years. In fact, we have been very much influenced by the lack of racialism amongst the Jewish communities. In our own country, in the political trials that have taken place, when few lawyers were prepared to defend us, it has been the Jewish lawyers who have come forward to defend us. I myself was articled. I'm a lawyer by profession, and I was trained to become a lawyer by a Jewish firm at a time when few firms in our country were prepared to take blacks. And as I have said, we have many Jews, members of the Jewish community in our struggle, and they have occupied very top positions. But that does not mean to say that the enemies of Israel are our enemies. We refuse to take that position. You can call it being political or a moral question, but for anybody who changes his principles depending on whom he is dealing, that is not a man who can lead a nation. Apparently, Mr. Koppel, you have not listened to my argument. If you have done so, then you have not been serious in examining it. I have replied to one of our friends here that I have refused to be drawn into the differences that exist between various communities inside the USA. You have not commented that I am going to offend anybody by refusing to involve myself in the internal affairs of the USA, of the USA.
Those of us who share your struggle for human rights and against apartheid have been somewhat disappointed by the models of human rights that you have held up since being released in jail. You've met over the last 6 months 3 times with Yasser Arafat, who you have praised. You have told Gaddafi that you share the view and applaud him on his record of human rights and his drive for freedom and peace around the world. And you have praised Fidel Castro as a leader of human rights and said that Cuba was one of the countries that's head and shoulders above all other countries in human rights, despite the fact that documents at the United Nations and elsewhere show that Cuba is one of the worst. I was just wondering, are these your models of leaders of human rights? And if so, would you want a Gaddafi or an Arafat or a Castro to be a future president of South Africa?
One of the mistakes which some political analysts make is to think that their enemies should be our enemies.
Oh, the sea is gold and the sky is gray. Look across the island into the bay. We are all islands till comes the day. Cross the burning water. Distance between you and me. Hasim Monanga, Hasim Monanga Mandela, La Biko Asimonanga mfowethu laphe khona lawafela khona Victoria Mcenge Asimonanga utati wethu laphe khona lawafela khona Dr. Neil Agate and all the others Asimonanga mfowethu laphe khona lawafela khona Angithi hey wena ithi hey wena nawe sofika nini la siyakhona Asimonanga laphe
When I found some place in my country and a lady answered the telephone, I then asked, to whom am I speaking? She said, you're speaking to me. I said, well, lady, I know I'm speaking to you. But what's your name? She said, who are you to ask for my name? What's your name? I say, well, lady, as soon as you tell me your name, I'll tell you mine. But as we argued as to who should tell his or her name, she became very cross. And she said, you seem to be a backward person. Have you passed your matric? Now, matric in our country is a university entry examination. And I said, well, lady, you must be very careful. Because if the qualification to speak to you is the possession of a matric certificate, I might work hard and pass my matric and be in the same class as you are. That was treason. She said, you will never be in my class, and bang the telephone. How I wish she were here today. She would now discover that I have achieved more than pass my matric. Education is one of the most important weapons in a country. We wanted to transform education into an instrument we can use for development.
You have a limited time to stay on earth. You must try and use that period for the purpose of transforming your country into what you desire it to be.
Every human being, young or old, is an inspiration to those who want solutions to problems, national and international. As we take stock of our accomplishment and shortcoming, we should not, by a slightest of chance, lose sight of our once ambitious dream for education, total economic participation, and freedom for all. I thank you.
Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela went to school for the first time, the first member of his family to do so, he did not know that he would become the symbol of hope for a better education and a better future for millions in South Africa and the rest of the world. David James Smith writes in his book Young Mandela that Madiba himself pointed out that both his father and mother were illiterate, had no formal schooling and never learned to read or write, but that they certainly were not ignorant and had great wisdom, and that they supported and encouraged his education. He went to school at the age of about 7. His father realized that his son had a vision and a dream from an early age to help and lead his people. He asked the Tembu chief, Indaba on his deathbed to take care of his son and give him an education. Since then, education always played a most important role in Madiba's life. Even on Robben Island, he kept studying and inspired those around him to do so. After he was freed, long before he became president, he started working tirelessly to improve the quality of education for all in the country.
Education is one of the most important weapons in a country, and the extent to which black education is neglected is something very difficult to put in words. We wanted to transform education into a national asset, into an instrument we can use for development.
He asked young South Africans to help him in building a new South Africa.
You are going to remain in the country rather than to take away technology and skills away to serve other countries and other communities. We really need people who have had the opportunities to remain in this country and to serve our people.
Madiba believed that investing in education meant investing in a prosperous future. His vision inspired major companies to answer to his call for partnerships to tackle education challenges in the country.
Vandaag het ek hier meneer Ton Vossel. He has a lot of money. He can buy this town if he wants to. But he is here to see what he can do for you.
He crisscrossed the country in his quest for a better education for all. Many from South Africa and overseas joined hands with him and helped building schools, classrooms and libraries, providing teaching media and bursaries, renovating schools and uplifting communities. Madiba constantly reminded those who received that they also had a role and responsibility.
Now you must show that you appreciate this culture and that the young people will appreciate it by studying very hard and make sure that at the end of the year you pass with honors, with distinction.
His message also included the leaders of communities he visited. In 2007, Nelson Mandela founded the Nelson Mandela Institute at Fort Hare to take forward his work in education and rural development in South Africa and beyond. It is a partnership between the Nelson Mandela Foundation, the Department of Education, the University of Fort Hare, UNICEF and the Hamburg Society of the Schools for Africa campaign. It focuses on the transformation of education and rural development through applied research, teacher and leadership development, community mobilization, and by building sustainable public institutions. Nelson Mandela received more than 1,000 awards and honors in his lifetime. More than 25 schools, universities and educational institutions carry his name, while more than 19 bursaries, scholarships and foundations have also been named after him. In 2010, 6 universities in the Laureate International Universities Network awarded him an honorary degree for, as they put it, showing the world the better side of humanity, and for his grace, integrity and unrelenting determination to demonstrate the potential in every person to effect positive change. The world can honor Madiba and his legacy by remembering his words that education is the great engine of personal development, that it is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that the son of a mine worker can become the head of the mine, that a child of farm workers can become the president of a great nation, that it is what we make out of what we have, not what we are given, that separates one person from another.
Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished guests, comrades and friends, today all us do, by our presence here and by our celebrations in other parts of our country and the world, confer glory and hope to newborn liberty. Out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted too long, must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud. Our daily deeds as ordinary South Africans must produce an actual South African reality that will reinforce humanity's belief in justice, strengthen its confidence in the nobility of the human soul, and sustain all our hopes for a glorious life for all. All this we owe both to ourselves and to the peoples of the world who are so well represented here today. To my compatriots, I have no hesitation in saying that each one of us is as intimately attached to the soil of this beautiful country as are the famous jacaranda trees of Pretoria and the mimosa trees of the Bushveld. Each time one of us touches the soil of this land, we feel a sense of personal renewal. The national mood changes as the seasons change. We are moved by a sense of joy and exhilaration when the grass turns green and the flowers bloom. That spiritual and physical oneness we all share with this common homeland explains that the depth of the pain we all carried in our hearts as we saw our country tear itself apart in terrible conflict. And as we saw it spent, outlawed, and isolated by the peoples of the world, precisely because it had become the universal base of the pernicious ideology and practice of racism and racial oppression. We, the people of South Africa, feel fulfilled that humanity has taken us back into its bosom, that we, who were outlaws, not so long ago, had today been given the rare privilege to be host to the nations of the world on our own soil. We thank all our distinguished international guests for having come to take possession with the people of our country. What is, after all, a common victory for justice, for peace, for human dignity. We trust that you will continue to stand by us as we tackle the challenges of building peace, prosperity, non-sexism, non-racialism, and democracy. We deeply appreciate the role that the masses of our people and their political, mass democratic, religious, women, youth, business, traditional and other leaders have played to bring about this conclusion. Let there be justice for all. Let there be peace for all. Let there be work, bread, water, and salt for all. Let each know that for each, the body, the mind, and the soul have been freed to fulfill themselves. Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another and suffer the indignity of being the skunk of the world. The sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement. Let freedom reign. God bless Africa. I thank you.
Senzenina, 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 sohlangana ezulwini, sohlangana ezulwini, sohlangana ezulwini, sohlangana ezulwini, senzenina, 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 sohlangana ezulwini, sohlangana ezulwini.
Our attitude towards any country is determined by the attitude of that country to our struggle. Yasser Arafat, Colonel Gaddafi, Fidel Castro support our struggle to the hilt. Our attitude is based solely on the fact that they fully support the anti-apartheid struggle. They do not support it only in rhetoric. They are placing resources at our disposal for us to win the struggle.
We are a nation deeply wounded by callous, uncaring men who plot such heinous crimes with impunity. The cries of our nation are heard from old men who bury their sons and daughters, wives who weep for their husbands, communities who endlessly bury young and old, infants and pregnant women. This killing must stop.
Was the shadow of the demon he could never face. He built a wall of steel and flame, and men with guns to keep it tame. Then standing back, he made it plain that the nightmare would never ever rise again. But the fear and the fire and the guns remain. It doesn't matter now, it's over anyhow. He tells the world that it's sleeping. But as the night came round, I heard its lonely
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence against a government whose reply is only savage attacks on an unarmed and defenseless people. And I think the time has come for us to consider, in the light of our experiences in this stay at home, whether the methods which we have applied so far are adequate.
I went to see the man who organized this stay-away, a 42-year-old African lawyer, Nelson Mandela, the most dynamic leader in South Africa today. The police were hunting for him at the time, but African nationalists had arranged for me to meet him at his hideout. He is still underground. This is Mandela's first television interview. I asked him what it was that the African really wanted.
The Africans want the franchise on the basis of one man, one vote. They want political independence.
Do you see Africans being able to develop in this country without the European being pushed out?
We have made it very clear in our policy that South Africa is a country of many races. There is room for all the various races in this country.
Are there many educated Africans in South Africa?
Yes. We have a large number of Africans who are educated and who are taking part in the political struggles of the African people. The question of education has nothing to do with the question of the vote. On numerous occasions, it has been proved in history that people can enjoy the vote even if they have no education. Of course, we desire education, and we think it's a good thing. But you don't have to have education in order to know that you want certain fundamental rights, you have got aspirations, you have got claims. It has nothing to do with education whatsoever.
Are you planning any more campaigns of non-cooperation?
Yes. The Pietermaritzburg resolution makes provision for a campaign of non-cooperation with the government, and we are presently studying plans to implement this aspect of the resolution.
Now, if Dr. Verwoerd's government doesn't give you the kind of concessions that you want sometime soon, is there any likelihood of violence?
There are many people who feel that the reaction of the government to our stay at home, ordering a general mobilization, arming the white community, arresting 10,000s of Africans, the show of force throughout the country, notwithstanding our clear declaration that this campaign is being run on peaceful and non-violent lines, close the chapter as far as our methods of political struggle are concerned. There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence against a government whose reply is only savage attacks on an unarmed and defenseless people. And I think the time has come for us to consider, in the light of our experiences in this stay at home, whether the methods which we have applied so far are adequate.
A man who changes his principles depending on with whom he is dealing is not a man who can lead a nation. The context was this: what principle are you being asked to change, you, Mr. Mandela, when Americans question your praise for the human rights under Gaddafi and Castro? What is the principle involved there that you're being asked to change?
Mr. McNeil, this is a matter which should not be handled lightly, as many people do. The first country which we approached in the 60s for assistance when our leaders had to leave the country in order to mobilize the support of the international community. The first country we approached was the United States of America. We could not even succeed to come close to the government, and they refused to assist us. But Cuba, the moment we appealed for assistance, they were ready to do so, and they did so. Why would we now listen to the Western world when they say we should have nothing to do with Cuba? It's just unreasonable. No human being acts in that particular fashion. Here is the country that was the first to assist us when the West, which had formidable resources, was actually supporting the government. Now you expect us to change our whole approach and to start condemning Cuba for what is supposed to be happening inside the country. No man of principles could ever do that. Our major weapon of struggle against apartheid oppression and exploitation is our people organized into mass formation of the democratic movement.
Nelson Mandela was an anti-apartheid activist and the first black president of South Africa. He was born Rolilhlahla Mandela on July 18, 1918, in the rural village of Mvezo. A descendant of the Tembu royal family, Mandela's father served as a local chief and counselor to the king. His devout Christian mother enrolled him in a Methodist school, where he was given the English name Nelson. After his father's death, the 12-year-old Mandela was brought to the center of the Tembu monarchy to be raised by the king's regent. Living among the royal family exposed Mandela to powerful examples of black leadership that remained a source of influence throughout his life. Mandela attended the University College of Fort Hare and studied law at the University of Witwatersrand in Johannesburg. The school's only black student and a frequent target of racism, Mandela soon began to immerse himself in the world of radical politics. In 1944, he joined the African National Congress, an anti-colonialist political party that fought to enfranchise and empower the black population living under an oppressive white authority. Mandela helped to found the ANC's Youth League and quickly rose in its ranks alongside fellow activists Oliver Tambo and Walter Sisulu. With the National Party's rise to power in 1948, South Africa's racial inequality was officially codified under the system of apartheid. The government passed legislation that institutionalized discrimination and enforced the supremacy of the minority white population. Mandela and the ANC fought back, launching the Defiance Campaigns of 1952, a series of non-violent direct actions uniting black, Indian, and communist coalitions through coordinated civil disobedience. The National Party swiftly cracked down on their efforts, jailing Mandela and banning him from the ANC. Before long, the campaign had died out. In 1956, Mandela and 155 colleagues were tried for treason. While they were ultimately acquitted, Mandela became convinced that apartheid would not fall without armed resistance. In 1961, he formed the MK, a militant branch of the ANC that committed targeted acts of sabotage against the government and its military. The MK's guerrilla tactics were effective, but in August 1962, Mandela was captured. Charged with conspiracy, he received a life sentence. Incarcerated at Robben Island, Mandela remained a symbol of black South African resistance. During his years behind bars, he continued his fight on a smaller scale, organizing against the prison's inhumane conditions through demonstrations and teach-ins. Calls for Mandela's freedom gradually built up global support, and South Africa's government buckled under growing pressure. Finally, in 1990, after 27 years, Mandela was released from prison. South Africa held its first open elections in 1994. The African National Congress, led by Mandela, won in a landslide. As president, Mandela prioritized national programs that expanded access to social services, education, and housing. His administration also established the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which served to investigate and confront human rights violations committed under apartheid. At the end of his first term in 1999, Mandela retired from politics. He continued to commit himself to activism, particularly in response to the AIDS crisis, until the end of his life. In 2013, Mandela died of a respiratory infection at age 95. He still stands as both the father of his nation and an international symbol of hard-won liberation.
There is some remarks which I have made on countless occasions. I make these remarks because I think it is necessary for us to remind ourselves of what human beings have done, both to oppress and exploit other human beings and to address their living conditions and to make life worthwhile. Men and women all over the world come and go. Some leave nothing behind, not even their name. It would appear that they never lived at all. Others do leave something behind. The haunting memory of the evil deeds they committed against other human beings. Various kinds of theft, robbery, malicious injury to property, denial of human rights simply because people are of a different color to you, torture, imprisonment without trial, and political assassinations. Every time the names of such people are mentioned, even at the height of their power, with all the glittering symbols of power, they are like a grave, beautiful outside, rotten inside. Whenever their names are mentioned, feelings of contempt, of disgust, of revulsion, of hatred well up in our hearts. We regard them as the scums of the earth, as pieces of rags who are not fit to live. There is another second category of people who leave something behind. These are the men and women who have emerged in various parts of the world and who have chosen the world to be the battleground of their efforts, the theater of their operations. Their task in life is one. That is to improve the living conditions of the people amongst whom they live. To make life, to make everybody feel that it is worthwhile to live. To fight questions like poverty, ignorance, disease, and want. They are the men and women who want to put sunshine in the hearts of the poorest of the poor. Their name lives beyond the grave. They are the men and women who, when their last day comes, we are able to say from the bottom of our heart, here lies a man or woman who has done his or her duty to country and people. Their names live beyond the grave. They become immortal.
There's a train that comes from Namibia and Malawi. There's a train that comes from Zambia and Zimbabwe. There's a train that comes from Angola and Mozambique, from Lesotho, from Botswana, from Swaziland, from all the hinterlands of southern and central Africa. This train carries young and old African men who are conscripted to come and work on contract in the gold and mineral mines of Johannesburg and its surrounding metropoli. 16 hours or more a day for almost no pay. Deep, deep, deep down in the belly of the earth, when they are digging and drilling for that shiny, mighty, evasive stone, or when they dish that mishmash food into their iron plates with the iron shovel, or when they sit in their stinky, funky, filthy, flea-ridden barracks and hostels. They think about the loved ones they may never see again because they might already have been forcibly removed from where they last left them, or wantonly murdered in the dead of night by roving and marauding gangs of no particular origin, we are told. They think about their lands and their herds that were taken away from them with the gun and the bomb and the tear gas and the Gatling and the cannon. And when they hear that choo-choo train, a chugging and a pumping and a smoking and a pushing and a pumping, crying and a steaming and a chicken and a they always cuss and they curse the coal train that brought them to Johannesburg. Stimela sihamba ngamalahle siveleta la kupayi sangelata wakuqa hey babe what is izuba malahle zuba malahle stimela baba sihamba ngamalahle siveleta la kupayi helele sangelata wakuqa hey babe what is izuba malahle paisa wena bathi stimela shisa sitsheni njengezinja siyenele mambe let me go yene mama bathi stimela sikane nisi toba zetu baba masibuyele nedolago kale nizinga
The very right to be human is denied every day to hundreds of millions of people as a result of poverty and the unavailability of basic necessities such as food, jobs, water and shelter, education, health care, and a healthy environment. As I sit in Kunu, my village, and grow as ancient as its hills, I will continue to entertain the hope that there has emerged a cadre of leaders in my own country and region, on my continent, and in the world, which will not allow that any should be denied their freedom, as we were. that any should be turned into refugees, as we were, that any should be condemned to go hungry, as we were, that any should be stripped of their human dignity, as we were.
Dalibhunga, Dela kufa, Madiba, Nolomsila, Vela bambensele, Yem. A global icon, internationally acclaimed.
Nelson Mandela, Dada Madiba, father of the nation. Nelson Mandela, Dada Madiba, father of the nation. Imisebenzi yakho iyasimangaza, uyibekile ndukwebandla, sonke sifisa ukufana nawe, uyisibonele emhlabeni wonke, uhlanganisa abamnyama nabamhlophe, wasenza sabanye sohlala sikuthanda.
Madiba, we shall sustain the momentum. Madiba, we shall preserve your legacy. Madiba, we shall emulate your values and principles. History demands that we succeed as a nation. History demands that we do not become complacent. History demands that we do not rest on our laurels and work harder. We are duty bound to rise above malice and prejudice. Let reason and wisdom prevail. Nelson Mandela, a human treasure, a chief of our Tembo tribe, a former amateur boxer, a graduate from Robben Island prison, a lawyer by profession, Madiba, a legendary leader, the first commander of Mkondo Wesizwe, a torchbearer who captured world attention, a trendsetter par excellence, 27 years behind bars in a concrete jungle. Indeed, the long road to freedom, the long walk to freedom.
You're our banner of peace, our pillar of strength, our soldiers' boots. You're the father of nations, the world's icon. Your name shall live on. Long live Dr. Mandela. So shall I say good time, Nelson Mandela. Yabonga Dada Madiba, father of the nation. Oh, Nelson Mandela, Dada Madiba, father of the nation. Ageko fana nawe,
From prison to presidency, the first black president of a democratic South Africa, Madiba, a catalyst, Madiba, a reconciler, Madiba, a unifier. A unifier who embraced the enemies of our struggle. Love can best be measured by ability to forgive. Madiba, a genius extraordinary.
Tata Madiba, there's no one like him. There's no one like him. Tata Madiba, there's no one like him.
God was in a happy mood when he created Nelson Mandela through his parents. Long live the resilient spirit of Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. Long live.